How often have you heard somebody say, ouch, my back just went out? They grab their back, they maybe hit the floor in pain, they're writhing around, they're heading to the emergency room, they're looking for their medications or pills, they're looking for a heating pad, and all of a sudden their back just went out. Every day you hear that over and over. The reality is, backs do not just go out. For most people, when the lower back experiences basically extreme pain, there's something else going on that's been leading up to it for perhaps years or decades, and we've just ignored it. So when somebody says my back just went out, it's not true. It's a needle in the haystack where in a way, or something just happened all of a sudden, but there's been many things that have happened way before that have caused that to happen. So I'm going to explain in this video about what that process is. Hello, my name is John Burris, and I'm very pleased that you can join me today for this video, very elaborate video on how the back actually works. And this video is called Backs Do Not Just Go Out. I will give you an in-depth exploration about how the back actually works, why most people have avoided the truth about their back, and give you a whole new paradigm about how to heal the back. So I am so excited that you've chosen to join me for this video, and this is going to change a lot of people's perception of their backs. And let's go ahead and begin here. A couple of important things here. I've been in the wellness healing profession for over 35 years. I have helped many people understand and heal their back issues. And it's been quite a journey of discovery. And these are things that I was not taught in massage schools or bodywork schools. These are ideas I had to come to on my own. And I'll be sharing with you a lot of those ideas here today. Also, I've had back pain for 35 years. Today I'm healed. I feel completely healed. But I had over 35 years of sciatica, really intense back pain where I would lay on the couch for weeks at a time or days at a time not being able to move. I grimaced, I threw painkillers, and I did all the things the doctors told me to do, strengthen my core, strengthen my legs, strengthen my back muscles. And I did that. It didn't work because I was doing all the wrong things. So I'm going to share with you what those right things are, and I'm going to give you lots of ideas to think about. And as we explore what the back actually is and how to get well, and that's why I'm here, give you ideas about how to be pain-free and how to get well. So it's also often alarming to me when I'm watching on television a sporting event, and I'll hear the sporting announcer, well, perhaps when he's talking about a golfer, for example, who's had 5 back surgeries and 4 knee surgeries, and the announcer says, oh, don't worry, they're not related. The back surgeries and the back problems are not related to the knees. And I'm aghast. I throw up my arms and I make noise and I scream at the television, how can you be so wrong? And I'll hear a whole plethora of medical doctors and physical therapists and trainers and even massage therapists and yoga teachers say the same thing. Oh, that knee problem is not related to the back problem. And I'll just be alarmed, or I'll hear another sportscaster who is talking about a professional basketball player. And they'll say, oh yeah, so-and-so, they had plantar fasciitis and tight feet 4 years ago. Then 3 years ago, they had a series of sprained ankles. And then last year, they had a couple of knee surgeries, and this year their back goes out and they can't play anymore and have to retire. And they say, oh, don't worry, they're not related to each other. And I, once again, throw up my arms in disbelief that we could be so ignorant. So that's the common model that we're following. We're following a model that's broken. We're following a model that is over 2,000 years old. Remember, this is the time when people believed the moon was made of green cheese. In our anatomy perception of our own body, most people still believe those beliefs, those errant, old, wrong beliefs. So in cases with the back, In most people's cases, it has very little to do with the lower back. The pain may show up there, and you might have a diagnosis of sciatica or spinal stenosis or a slip disc, but in most people's cases, it's not starting there. It's ending up there. It's starting the leg somewhere. So the current medical model is called mechanism. It follows a 400-year-old concept from René Descartes in France, who taught something called the Cartesian model. The Cartesian model was separation. Separation was the mind was separate from the body, that the body was a machine that was basically a bunch of separate parts, and that model continues today in mechanism and separation, and how the medical model, including physical therapy, most physical therapy, not all, the medical model of medical doctors and trainers, they follow the same model, that everything is separate. If you have a pain in one area, it's not related to another area. And I, once again, after my own healing history of my own back, I say that's hogwash. It's all related. And we need to look at the back as a holistic model, not as a mechanistic model. So in order to heal back pain, lower back pain particularly, we need to look at what's going on in the hips and legs. That'll give us quite a bit more information. And yes, those knee issues, those hip issues, those ankle sprains are completely related to what's going on in your back. It doesn't go away, and that's where we start. So let me give you a little more background about my back journey. This would have been a back journey, partly how I got into the healing arts business. I was in so much pain. So when I was about 8 years old, I was playing with my brothers and a friend in the gutter where there was running water, and you're having fun as an 8-year-old barefoot. And I stepped on a broken Coca-Cola bottle, and it slashed open the bottom of my foot. And you go to the emergency room, and you get through the day of hysteria, and a week later, you're going back to the doctor and having the stitches removed, and you're running around again, and life is great. Or so I thought. So what happened when I started playing high school sports, I started having feet problems and lots of sprained ankles, especially in the foot that had the stitches in it from before. And then I started having ankle issues, sprained ankles, shin problems, blown out knees, quadricep issues, hip problems. And in my early 20s, my back went out for the first time, and it was a series of 35 years of every couple of weeks or months, my back would go out again. And I did all the things I was told to do. I would strengthen my core muscles, and I would strengthen my back muscles and strengthen my legs and work out and do all the fitness things, and I was extremely fit, and I still had back problems. So fitness is not going to cure your back. That's what people need to understand, because most people's back pain isn't coming from their back. It's originating in their leg. For me, I had a spiral in my leg that was shortening my leg, torquing my hip, and eventually it pulled into my back. But my real root cause was my leg was torquing. It was twisting. It started from the bottom of my foot. And no medical professional had ever diagnosed that. Until I corrected my foot, my ankle, my shins, and my leg, not until I did that did my back pain finally go away. So I'm here to tell you today, most people's lower back pain is not coming from your back. It's coming from a twisted and torqued leg. So let me show you a picture of how this works. Occasionally, somebody will fall, like perhaps fall off a ladder, right on their lower back, and that causes the source of their back pain. But that's actually very rare. What I found over my 35 years of research working on myself and other people, almost everybody's back pain comes from somewhere down the leg. So for me, here's the picture I like to use. My leg had a spiral. I had an injury in my left foot that caused scar tissue, and it caused the ligaments, muscles, and tendons to not work correctly. It was never repaired correctly, according to what I would have done now. So it caused my lower leg from my ankle to my knee to rotate outward, as you see in the bottom arrow. So my shin was rotating outward. What happens is every time you cross a joint, in this case the knee joint, the body will try to compensate and rotate the other way. So then my upper hamstring and adductor muscles, the groin muscles, would tighten up. And I'd always have these spasms in my hamstrings and groin. And then the psoas muscle, which pulls from the groin all the way into lower back, starts to tighten, and it pulls on the lower lumbar vertebrae. And then your hip starts to rotate outward like the ankle, because you're now crossed another joint, so it tries to compensate the other way. So you could have pain in the lower lumbar, or you could have pain in the hip, outer hip, in the piriformis muscle. But for almost everybody I've worked on with back pain, they have a spiral in their leg. And it's caused by an old foot injury, a skiing accident, a broken foot, something that's caused their leg to spiral. And once again, the secret here is, this is something I discovered myself. Every time you cross over another joint, the leg will compensate by moving the other direction. So if you have a knee problem, it's probably coming from an ankle problem. That's probably going to lead to a back problem because your leg is now in a spiral. So this is the exciting part. This model here is going to show you how the body actually works. The body is a series of cables and pulleys, and that's the muscles and the fascia. The fascia is the membranes, like white fibers. Like if you opened up an orange, cut it open, you see a lot of white. That'd be the fascia in the body. So the body is a series of cables and pulleys. So, for example, if I have a sprained ankle down here, all of a sudden it shifts my leg, rotates my leg, and it starts to shift my hip. See how it moves? And all of a sudden you see that? The neck starts moving too, because I'm pulling on my psoas muscle, which goes into my groin. And so my leg spiral, from the cable and pulley system here, it starts to shift everything along this journey here. All these cables and pulleys are all connected. And I start to move them, and if I have a leg issue down here, it starts to create a hip issue up here. And then it pulls into my lower back here, and eventually it pulls into my neck and my shoulders. My neck and shoulders are going to start being tweaked here because my leg's an issue. So the proper way to view the body is it's all connected by cables and pulleys, which are the muscle of the fascia system. So once again, as I shift my leg and it starts to rotate, in my case and for most people, the lower leg below the knee rotates outward. Once it crosses the knee joint, it rotates inward. The hamstring tightens up here. It pulls on the hip here. And that hip pulls in the psoas here, and it pulls on the sciatic nerve right here. That's coming from your foot and ankle. All that's coming here because the cables in your body are being tweaked. It's like a circus tent. If there's too much tension somewhere, it collapses, or not enough strength somewhere. So we want a balanced system. So the body's all a series of cables and pulleys. See, once again, your hip shift, your neck shifts. Your hip shift, your neck shifts. So when your ankle shifts and your shin shifts because you have an old ankle sprain that you had while you were 10 years old in high school soccer, and now you have a knee problem because your leg is rotating, and now you have a hip problem, now you have a back problem. So almost everybody with a back problem has a leg problem. And we're not looking at it that way because we're not looking at the holistic model, we're looking at the mechanistic model. This is how the body actually works. This is how we are designed, a series of cables and pulleys. A really important muscle fascia connection is the psoas muscle, which goes from the inner groin muscles, the adductors, all the way into lower back. When your leg is rotated, the psoas muscle will shorten, twist, and pull onto your lumbar spine, causing all kinds of diagnostic issues like slip disc and spinal stenosis, but it's coming from your leg, not coming from your back. So the psoas muscle, really important. So here's a picture of the psoas muscle. Once again, it starts in the deep part of the groin, inner thigh muscles, goes all the way through the groin into lower back. When this really important muscle shortens, you get back issues. But your back problems are not coming from your back. They're coming from a spiral leg and a spiraled hip. In order to cure your back problems, you've got to stop doing core work, which is tightening up the psoas muscle. You're making something that's already too tight even tighter. How foolish is that? But that's the current model we're following. You've got to loosen the leg and loosen the psoas muscle so the lower vertebrae don't have so much compression on them. Also, look at your feet. Do you walk with one leg turned out at all? Look at your shoes. How do you wear your shoes? Do you flatten your feet when you walk, or are you rolling to the outside or the inside? Are you duck feet or pigeon-toed? The psoas muscle is a key part of why most people have back problems. But it comes from a spiral leg causing the psoas muscle to shorten and pull on the lower lumbar vertebrae. So here is a model of the spine and the hips and the psoas model. So this is my body. The psoas muscle starts in the groin, pulls into the lumbar spine. If you have back problems, that pain in your back, it's coming because your leg is rotated. Everything's rotated and spiraled. You have a lower leg spiral going out. You have an inner leg spiral above the knee. And then the hips try to pull it the opposite direction. And then it shortens your psoas inside, pulls on your lower back, and now you're diagnosed with a disease. You've got spinal stenosis, so you've got a slip disc. It's all coming from a shortened psoas muscle and a rotated leg. That's your source of your back pain. Another common area of concern when it comes to back pain is, it goes back to legs again. When your quadriceps in the front of your legs are too tight, it rotates your hips forward, causing a pelvic tilt. So the quadriceps too tight, many times too much fitness, too much strength training, too much bicycling, too much running, and you tighten your quadriceps, it shifts your hips forward and causes an arch in your back. So the psoas muscle, again, going from your groin to your lower back, is pulling and compressing the lower lumbar vertebrae. But it's not coming from your lower lumbar vertebrae. It's coming from your legs are too tight. So besides the rotated leg we talked about before, many people have quadriceps and psoas muscles too tight in front, causing your pelvic bowl to tilt, causing your lower lumbar to squeeze tightly, causing the vertebrae to erupt and pinch disc and everything else. One way to consider the hips is that the pelvis is a bowl of water and it wants to be flat. When your quadriceps in front are too tight and it tightens your psoas going through the groin into your lower back, squeezing the lower back muscles and vertebrae, it's almost as if all the water in your pelvic bowl is dumping forward. So many people's back problems comes from too tight of legs in front, your pelvic bowl is shifting forward, you're compressing the lower back, and all the imaginary water is dumping forward. So here's another leading edge idea to consider. Inversion tables, gravity boots, going upside down to cure back pain doesn't work because your back pain isn't coming from your back. So if you're looking for short-term relief, that could be great. Those will help short-term relief as they take the compression off your spine. So your lower back here is being compressed, and an inversion table going upside down, as I show my model here, will stretch this. What happens if most people's back pain is coming from a rotated leg? Rotated hip. Your hip's rotated. Your leg is shortened, and you're spiraling. Your leg has got a spiral outward on the lower leg, inward, and you're pulling along a spiraled shortened leg. Well, guess what? Inversion tables do nothing to address that. So for most people's back problems, inversion tables are a waste of time except for short-term relief, because most people's back problem is coming from a spiral in their leg that has nothing to do with their lower lumbar area. At least it's not coming from there. So if you want to cure back pain, inversion tables are never going to cure it. Going upside down with gravity boots will never cure your back pain. You've got to correct the spiral in your leg your psoas muscle pulling from your groin into your lower back to correct that. If your psoas muscle is too tight, inversion tables aren't going to stretch it out. If your hip's too tight and pulling up or down, inversion tables aren't going to address that. So if you have a spiral or leg, which most people do, then inversion tables are a waste of time because you're not curing your back problem, you're compensating. So if you're looking for pain relief, that's fine, but you're never going to cure your back pain by going upside down. And there you have it. That's at the root of most people's back pain. By the time you're diagnosed with a back condition, sciatica, pinched nerve, spinal stenosis, it's already too late. You've already been ignoring, perhaps for decades, what's really going on. And most of the time it's not your fault. You've been following the wrong people. The model in our culture is completely errant. It is wrong. It is backwards. It's a 3,000-year-old mistake. So this new ideas I'm presenting to you, how I cured my back pain, it works for people who want to do it. You have to do enough of the right things to get well. You can't keep doing the things I talked about, core strengthening, fitness, tightening up even more, when the problem for most people has to do with their legs and feet. So a couple of suggestions for you. Surgery can work for people, but I always say use surgery as a last resort, not a first resort. There are some things you can fix yourself, and most people can avoid surgery altogether if they do the right things. Core strengthening is not going to fix your back because it's not coming from your core. And I'll have a video out soon about the core and what a false narrative that is. If your pain goes away temporarily, it doesn't mean you're fixed. It means there's still problems. It's just the pain hasn't showed up today. So by ignoring any pain signals, you're ignoring healing in a way. Also the right kinds of movements. Most people are doing the wrong kinds of movements. So you want to do the right kinds of movements. So find a massage therapist or a fascia body worker. Stretching and yoga are incredibly helpful, especially in your legs and your hips and your feet. Re-education sessions. I spent many decades studying with not just yoga therapy, but Feldenkrais and Alexander and other types of movement therapies to realign my body. So you might find a re-education specialist. And once again, take a good look at your feet. How do your shoes wear? How do your feet wear? Do you roll in or do you roll out? So like many of you, I suffered for decades with back pain, and I fixed my body. I fixed it, but I had to go through the hoops of challenging the current models that are out there. I did everything I was told to do, and my back just kept getting worse. So if you want to cure your back pain, you're going to have to do some different things. And my suggestion is you're going to have to look at your leg, look at your hips, and see how they're rotating and how that's pulling into your lower back. And that's where it goes from here. If I can heal my body, anybody can heal their body. So I encourage you to take the steps. Pain is no fun, and there are some steps out of it though. So thank you for visiting me today for this leading edge video. I hope you've enjoyed it and come to understand how the back works far greater than we've ever been taught how it works. So you can visit me more and learn more about me at my website, johnburris.com. And please subscribe to my channel for more leading edge videos in the future. Thank you.